picture this. It's January 22nd, 2026, yesterday.
Uh-huh.
You're standing outside the gates of Hidden Hills, California. Now, if you know anything about LA real estate, you know this isn't just a neighborhood.
No, it's a vault. It's a fortress.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's where privacy is the currency, and, these 8-figure price tags are just the entry fee.
Right.
And we're zooming in on one specific estate, a modern farmhouse, $20 million, 11 bedrooms.
16 bathrooms. I mean, it's a literal fortress of luxury.
It's the kind of property that basically acts as a billboard. It just tells the world, I have won.
Absolutely. It symbolizes total dominance in the music industry. It's the trophy at the finish line of a very, very long race.
Exactly. It's the trophy. But then I want you to smash cut to a courtroom in downtown Los Angeles. The vibe is completely different.
Oh, I can imagine. Cold, fluorescent lights.
Yeah, the smell of floor wax and just pure anxiety. There's a judge, Cindy Panucco, sitting there with a gavel, and she is seconds away from doing something that just sounds insane. She is ready to sign an order to seize that $20 million fortress and auction it off to the highest bidder.
And let's be super clear here. This isn't a foreclosure because the owner went bankrupt or something.
Not at all.
It's not because they couldn't pay the mortgage. It's because of a backstage beatdown from 6 years ago.
And a refusal to pay a debt that, quite frankly, should be pocket change for the person who lives there. It was the 11th hour. In the truest sense.
The clock is ticking down.
The ink was practically wet. And then just before the gavel drops, a transaction finally clears.
Wow.
She fought the law won, and yesterday, she finally cut the check. Welcome to StarScope Report.
Today we are doing a deep dive into the chaotic, high-stakes world of Nicki Minaj.
Join me, Jordan, and my co-host Jamie as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and the stories behind the fame.
Today, we are unpacking the sources to figure out how the self-proclaimed queen of rap came within inches, literally inches, of having her primary residence sold out from under her.
We've got court documents about a forced sale. We've got these mysterious allegations of a credit card theft ring she claims is draining her accounts.
And why, despite a record-breaking tour, the legal walls just seem to be closing in. It's a story about liquidity, liability, and the very, very dangerous game of ignoring the legal system.
So let's start with the headline that broke yesterday. Nicki Minaj paid $503,000 at the absolute last second to save her home.
Now, to you and me, $500,000 is life-changing money.
Oh, absolutely.
But to Nicki Minaj, whose net worth is estimated between $150, maybe $190 million, why was this even a discussion?
That's the real question. Why risk a $20 million asset over what is, for her, a rounding error in her bank account?
And that question, I think, it unlocks this entire story. To understand why a judge was about to seize a mansion, we have to go back in time.
To March 2019, Frankfurt, Germany.
This was the Nicki World Tour, if I remember correctly.
Correct. She's backstage at the festival in Frankfurt. The plaintiff in this case is a man named Thomas Weidenmuller. He was the head of security for the venue.
And from the reports I'm reading, things went south incredibly fast. What sparked the whole thing?
Well, went south is, putting it mildly, a SAN had breached the security perimeter during the show.
Okay.
And Nicki was reportedly furious about it. She allegedly started verbally berating a female security guard, screaming at her, calling her incompetent.
And recording her on a phone, I read.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Weidenmuller, as the head of security, steps in to de-escalate. He goes to Nicki's dressing room to try and, smooth things over.
And mediation is not what happened.
No. According to the court filings, Nicki just escalated. She allegedly screamed at Weidenmuller and then threw a shoe at him.
A shoe?
Now, the shoe missed. That wasn't the issue. The real issue was Kenneth Petty, Nicki's husband.
He was in the room.
He was there. And while Weidenmuller was dealing with Nicki, Petty allegedly sucker punched him from behind.
Ugh, it's just such a cowardly move if that's true. Hitting someone from behind.
And we are not talking about a split lip here. This was a devastating injury. Weidenmuller's jaw was broken.
I saw the list of procedures. It was horrific.
He had to undergo 8 surgeries. 5 titanium plates were screwed into his face. He needed bone grafts from a donor. This man's life was permanently altered.
So, of course, he sues.
He sues in 2019. And this is where we get into the legal strategy, or I should say, the baffling lack of one.
Because Nicki and Kenneth essentially ghosted the lawsuit.
They did. They didn't show up. They didn't respond to any filings.
Can you explain that? I mean, if I get sued, I'm terrified. I call a lawyer immediately. How do you just pretend it isn't happening? Do they think it just goes away?
Well, in the legal world, silence is basically an admission. If you don't show up to defend yourself, the court just assumes everything the other side says is true.
So the other side wins automatically.
Exactly. It's called a default judgment. It's the legal equivalent of forfeiting a sports game because you didn't even get off the bus.
And they just let that happen for 5 years.
Pretty much. So in March 2024, the court enters that default judgment. They order Nicki and Kenneth to pay $503,318.
For the medical bills, pain and suffering, all of it.
Right. So the court says, pay the man. And
They still didn't pay?
they did not.
Yeah.
And this is where Weidenmuller's lawyer, Paul Sasso, got creative and very aggressive.
He realized she wasn't just going to write a check.
No. He looked for assets. He tried to garnish wages from her record label, from Apple. But that's a slow process.
A lot of red tape.
A lot of red tape. So he went for the big target, the house in Hidden Hills.
The one she bought back in late 2022.
Correct. And here's where the math gets really fascinating. I want to break down this idea of an equity cushion, because this is what allowed the judge to threaten the sale in the first place.
Yeah, unpack that for us. Because she has a mortgage, right? She doesn't own the house outright.
Exactly. The house is appraised at roughly $20 million. But she owes Bank of America about $13.3 million on the mortgage.
Okay.
So if you sell the house for $20 million, you have to pay back the bank first. That's $13 million. What's left over?
About maybe $7 million.
That $6 million is the equity cushion. And Judge Cindy Panuco looked at the numbers and essentially said, there is plenty of money sitting inside these walls.
Wow.
If she won't pay the debt, we will force the sale of the house. First check goes to Bank of America. Second check goes to the security guard for his $500,000. And Nicki gets whatever's left.
It's just wild to think about. You're risking a customized luxury estate over a debt that is, what, like 2.5% of the home's value?
It's like risking your Ferrari because you refuse to pay a parking ticket.
It is. It's exactly like that. It just speaks to a level of, well, the lawyer's word was intransigence.
And it wasn't until the judge said, my tentative ruling is to grant the sale, that suddenly the money appeared.
And Paul Sasso, the lawyer, he confirmed it outside the courthouse yesterday. He just said, Nicki Minaj has satisfied the judgment.
And the sale order was withdrawn. The house is safe.
For now. But the damage is done. I mean, think about the reputational hit with lenders.
Oh, yeah.
Bank of America had to get dragged into court to testify about her mortgage. Her credit is probably damaged. It just paints a picture of someone who is financially disorganized at best.
Or cash poor at worst. Which brings us to a huge question. So if she had the money, why did it take the threat of eviction to get her to pay up?
Coming up, we're going to dive into Nicki's explosive claims that her own team was robbing her blind.
And the shade Cardi B threw that might just confirm it. This is financial mystery you do not want to miss.
Okay, so we just established that Nicki paid up at the very last second. But in the months leading up to this, she wasn't just silent. She was posting some pretty alarming things about her finances.
Right. If you look at the stats, 2024 was a banner year for her on paper. The Pink Friday 2 World Tour grossed $108.8 million.
At the time, it was the highest-grossing female rap tour in history.
$108 million. You could pay that judgment 200 times over. So where did the actual liquid cash go?
Well, according to Nicki, it was being stolen. In October 2025, she posted screenshots of her American Express statements on social media.
Right, I remember this. She highlighted all these unauthorized charges, totaling nearly $30,000.
And she claimed there was a theft ring inside her own camp.
She did. She alleged that insiders were tracking her movements, using her cards while she was distracted or traveling. She even invoked affiliates of Roc Nation, Jay-Z's company.
Suggesting this broader conspiracy to drain her funds.
Exactly. And she claimed a business manager stole from me many times. And this is the crucial part for the house. She claimed this manager never told her about the lawsuit judgment.
Wait a second. She's saying she didn't know she owed the money.
That was her defense, on Twitter at least. She said, I have evidence that this was given to a business manager who never told me.
But, I mean, she and her husband were served legal papers years ago. It's really hard to claim total ignorance when you are the named defendant in a multi-year assault case.
especially one where your husband broke a man's jaw.
Right.
But there is a tragic context to her management issues. We should mention that.
We have to. Her former business manager, Angela Kukowski, was murdered in 2021. It was a horrific tragedy.
So there's been genuine instability and trauma in her inner circle. It's not just simple negligence. There is a history of real chaos there.
But then enter Cardi B, because, of course, Cardi B enters the chat.
The rivalry that never sleeps.
Cardi jumped into the whole discourse and offered a very different theory on where the money was going.
She insinuated pretty loudly that the thief wasn't some shadowy figure. She hinted that Kenneth Petty, Nicki's husband, was the one maxing out the cards.
Cardi's comment was, and I'm quoting here, "You know what happens with that Amex when you sedated?"
Wow. The implication being that Nicki is not fully in control of her faculties or her finances, and her husband is taking advantage of that.
Which kind of tracks with the lawsuit we just talked about. I mean, Kenneth is the one who threw the punch that cost them $500,000. He seems to be a recurring liability.
And this really touches on what they call the black box of celebrity finance. You see this with huge stars like Johnny Depp or Nicolas Cage.
Explain the black box.
Well, they generate this massive revenue, right? But they hand over power of attorney to business managers or spouses because they just want to focus on the art.
So they lose track of the inflow and the outflow of money.
Completely. They see the gross income, that $108 million figure, but they don't see the net. The tour costs money to run. It's not all profit.
Right. You've got venue costs, crew, travel. The label takes a cut. Management takes 10 or 15%. Lawyers take 5%. Then there's taxes.
And then you have the leakage from people around them using credit cards. So you can gross $100 million, but maybe only actually take home 20.
Or less. And if your lifestyle costs $25 million a year, you are in trouble.
It sounds like a movie plot, this Amex theft ring. But for Nicki, it creates a situation of liquid insolvency. She has the assets, the house, the catalog, but she doesn't have the cash on hand.
Which creates this vulnerability. If you can't pay your debts, your assets get seized. It's Econ 101, but it seems to be a lesson that's being learned the hard way here.
And speaking of which, we thought the Frankfurt lawsuit was bad? Just wait until you hear what happened in Detroit.
Another lawsuit has dropped, and the details are eerily, terrifyingly similar. History has a nasty habit of repeating itself.
Before we get to that, if you are hooked on this deep dive into Hollywood's legal dramas, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got more stories coming that prove truth is stranger than fiction.
Okay, let's talk about Detroit, because just as the house situation is getting resolved, this new legal bomb drops.
This is the lawsuit filed in January 2025 by a man named Brandon Garrett. He was a tour manager for the Pink Friday 2 tour.
A tour manager is a high-level position. This isn't some random guard. This is the person running the entire show.
Correct. And the incident he describes took place on April 21st, 2024, backstage at Little Caesars Arena.
Set the scene for us. What happened?
It starts with a mundane dispute. That's the pattern here. It starts with something small. Garrett was busy helping Nicki with a costume change, so he sent a subordinate to pick up her prescription.
And she finds out a subordinate did it instead of him, and she explodes.
Allegedly. Garrett claims she just screamed at him. And here is the chilling part. He alleges she yelled, "If my husband was here, he would knock out your expletive teeth."
There it is again. The husband is the enforcer.
Exactly. In Frankfurt, the husband did knock out the teeth. In Detroit, he's invoked as a threat to do the exact same thing. It suggests a culture of intimidation.
And it didn't stop at verbal threats, did it?
No. Garrett claims Nicki physically assaulted him. He says she open-handedly struck him in the face, knocking his hat off, and then hit his wrist.
The image of a global superstar slapping her tour manager backstage over a prescription errand. It's just so chaotic.
And the aftermath is just as telling. Garrett says he locked himself in a bathroom for hours because he was terrified.
He was eventually kicked off the tour bus and had to fly himself home. He describes being fearful and traumatized.
So now we have a distinct pattern. 2019, Frankfurt. Argument, shoe thrown, husband punches, lawsuit.
2024, Detroit. Argument, slap, husband threatened, lawsuit.
This creates what risk analysts call a litigation brand. If you are an insurer for a world tour and you see that the artist has a history of physically assaulting staff
and carrying a husband who breaks people's jaws, your insurance premiums are going to go through the roof.
Or you just become uninsurable.
Exactly. Tour insurance covers everything. Cancellation, liability, injury. If the insurance carrier thinks the artist is the liability, they will not write the policy.
And without insurance, you can't tour. And if you can't tour, you can't generate that liquidity we were talking about. It makes the business of being Nicki Minaj incredibly difficult.
And maybe that explains the other big shift we've seen recently, the politics.
The mega pivot.
Right. Nikki has aligned herself very publicly with Donald Trump lately. She's been praising him, showing up at events.
For a while, people thought it was just her being contrarian. But when you look at the financial and legal walls closing in, is there a connection?
There's a lot of speculation in the industry that this is a strategic move. Some call it a grift, to be cynical.
When you're cash poor but attention rich, aligning with a political movement that monetizes outrage can be a kind of lifeline.
And don't forget the legal angle. Is she hoping for some kind of intervention? A pardon, perhaps?
Well, that's where the strategy falls apart. A presidential pardon works for federal crimes. It doesn't get you out of a civil debt to a security guard in California.
Or a tour manager in Detroit. Those are civil torts. Trump can't just wave a wand and fix her credit score or stop a foreclosure.
That's a really good point. But it speaks to a certain level of desperation. You have this wealthy immigrant artist aligning with a platform that's historically been hostile to immigration.
It feels like a Hail Mary pass.
It does. It feels like someone is looking for protection, whether that's financial, from a new donor base, or political. It's a sign that the current strategy isn't working.
So bringing it all back to the house, the Hidden Hills estate is safe. She paid the $500,000. She isn't homeless.
She isn't homeless, but the foundation, if you'll excuse the pun, is cracking. You just cannot sustain a career on this level of internal chaos.
You can't have theft rings, assault lawsuits, and default judgments haunting you every time you get on a plane.
It really is a tragedy of legacy. We're talking about one of the most talented rappers of her generation.
Yeah.
The music broke records.
But the behavior is breaking the bank.
And that's the takeaway. Talent generates wealth, but character protects it. If you don't have the discipline to handle the business side or the emotional regulation to not assault your staff, the wealth just evaporates.
It's a cautionary tale wrapped in a very glamorous package.
Reminds me of that old saying, more money, more problems. But in this case, it seems to be more money, same problems, just with bigger lawyers.
And on that note, here's a thought to leave you with. We know she paid the money to save the house. But Paul Sayso, the lawyer who chased her down for years, said something interesting.
What was that?
He said, the law applies to everyone. It took 6 years, but it finally caught up, with this new lawsuit from Brandon Garrett just starting, and her husband's legal issues always lurking.
Do we think this was the finale? Or just the opening act of a much bigger downfall?
That's the question I'll be watching, because if the money really is drying up, the next settlement might not be so easy to pay.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.